Hi, I'm Jamie Braithwaite.
And I'm Matt Larson, and this is Monday's Mental Health Minute with Dr. Matt.
We are so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me over.
Of course. Now, bring us all the goodness that is Matt Larson. I mean, Dr. Larson.
So, what I wanted to talk about today is two things: multitasking and how that conversation can apply to phones.
Oh, interesting.
Because I will watch so many parents fight with their kids about phones.
Oh, technology.
Screen time, how much time, what they're looking at on their phone, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
These are the kids that have been raised on iPhones.
Right. And they're being raised by parents who weren't.
Yes.
So we didn't learn as a kid what should be done.
I was married when the iPhone came out
Right.
with two babies.
Right. They often say, as kids are growing up, you're watching your parents grow up.
Oh.
That's very true. None of us have any training in how to parent somebody through a iPhone world.
Yeah, none.
We're making it up as we go along.
Yes, we are.
So I see a lot of parents, and we've tried it as well. I've got 5 teenagers. So I've tried most things. I've tried the Circle app.
Oh, yeah.
Remember the Disney Circle?
Yeah.
Yeah. We tried the Circle app. We've tried the router restrictions on the Wi-Fi. We've done screen time.
Do you want to know something about... So I know somebody that the parent took the router plug.
Yeah.
Well, he was a teenager. He just went to Best Buy and bought a router plug.
Yes.
And then was home all day with the internet.
Yes. And that's one thing. This is a separate conversation. Any restriction can be worked around.
Garth calls it the arms war.
Yes. If you make a restriction, they work around it. You find it, you make another restriction, they work around it. Restriction, work around it. That's like any kid who is totally addicted to their phone, that the parent took it away. If it's gone for more than 2 weeks, I guarantee your kid has another phone. They got somebody's old iPhone 13, they got the 15 or the old 8 or some old number.
Dug something out found something on the black market.
And hooked it up to the Wi-Fi from your house or the neighbor's house. And they're charging it at night underneath their bed or somewhere.
Interesting.
So I'm like, if you want to find the phone, search the house at 2 a.m. and check all the plugs. Because you'll find it charging somewhere.
Oh, that's interesting.
Don't, at that moment, wake your kid up and scream at them about the phone.
They don't have their listening ears on.
Right.
You probably don't have your listening ears on.
Because you're in anger mode and they're supposed to be asleep mode.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've caught them in a lie. Like, nobody likes getting caught in a lie.
Right. And the other problem with bringing it up right then is they're not doing anything new wrong at that moment. So being punished at that moment doesn't get them to stop any bad behavior because they weren't doing a bad behavior at that moment.
I have no idea how I would address this. What would you do then?
Right. First, if you have a co-parent, if you're married, you talk to them.
First. Before talking to the child.
Exactly. You decide together how we can address this.
Because do you tell them that you found it? Do you leave it?
I would probably leave it.
Okay.
Talk to your spouse, talk to whoever you trust. If you don't have a spouse, talk to your parent, talk to your friend.
Or your therapist.
A therapist.
Or a doctor.
Bounce it off somebody else.
Okay.
Then you don't talk to them until you're calm. And you just say hey, I know you've got another phone. If they start tonight, you're like, I'm not here to fight about it. I saw one charging in your room. Yes, I went in your room and I saw it. So I don't want to fight and take the phone and you get another one. I want to figure out how we end the fight. And I trust you and you trust me. We start rebuilding something, some sort of trust. Because if you just start yelling and screaming at them, they don't hear, I should not be on my phone. They hear, my parent's a jerk.
They caught me in this.
I have to be better at hiding it, or my parents so old they won't ever understand. They'll play their own narrative in their head. That's not the lesson you want them to learn.
Okay.
So my advice on phones is teach them really how good a phone is as a tool. And it just matters that you use the tool on purpose, when and where you want, and the tool doesn't use you.
I would even say that this applies for kids on social media.
Yes.
And if they're not posting on social media, and that's something that they have been doing very, very frequently and maybe have gotten in trouble for, they probably have a second account.
Exactly. Like most people don't succeed at changing behavior really quickly.
Yeah.
So
Cold turkey.
if someone's made a miraculous change, it's kind of like a crash diet. It's probably not going to stick.
Which we've talked
or
about.
they're cheating on the side.
Yes.
They're doing something they're not telling you about.
Yes. Yes. Okay, good. So practice with somebody, co-parent or other adult, on how to approach the conversation. Get your own listening ears on.
Yes.
And then, so now we've had this conversation with the child. What does a child usually do? Do you know that because of your specialties of knowledge?
Well, what's the end goal?
Of this, of saying I caught you with your phone.
Well, the end goal, like why do we want to restrict the phone? What's the end goal of them not spending so much time on their phone? Because the parents got to figure out what they actually want.
Oh, that's really,
Do you want your kid
really hard
to finish their homework? Do you want them to be present in the house for conversations? Do you want them to be bored and think instead of being distracted all the time?
So you're saying you need to stop and like internalize that as a parent first.
You got to figure out what success would actually look like.
Do you feel like as you need to say to yourself as a parent, am I always on the phone?
Right. Well, that's another conversation.
That's another.
Most parents, they have terrible habits.
Right.
And their only excuse is, I'm older than you, I'm the parent, I'm allowed.
Which doesn't hold up for teenagers very well.
It's like, well, why do you get to drink soda and I don't? Why do you drink alcohol and I don't?
Yeah.
Well, because I'm old and I'm allowed to make bad decisions.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Again, this is going into more deep conversations for other times, but nobody listens until they feel understood. So if you don't find out what your kid wants and why they're on the phone for real, because you can assume, and you'll assume wrong.
Because it's always the worst case scenario.
Well, it's because they want TikTok. It's because they want to look at porn. It's because they want to talk to their girlfriend.
Right.
It's because they don't respect me. It's because they just want to make me mad. They're doing it to piss me off, et cetera, et cetera. So if you can figure out and really listen, put on your listening ears. That's going to be the most important thing in most conversations. You have to start there. Because if they don't feel understood, the message will never get through.
Yeah.
Then you can get through. And then you can get through saying things like the phone is not the problem. The phone is not the enemy. The fact that I can't talk to you when I call and need help, you can't hear me because you have headphones in. When we're sitting at dinner, you're not eating dinner. You're on your phone. And that's when I say, we're going to do one activity at a time. There's no such thing as multitasking. If we're eating dinner, that's all we're doing. If we're watching a movie, we're all watching the movie. You don't get to have a phone and a movie. Parents don't get to have a laptop and a movie.
Oh, man.
One screen at a time, because you can only actively pay attention to one thing. You can switch back and forth, but you can only actively listen to one thing. So I tell my kids, I'm like, phones aren't a problem. Computers aren't a problem. When we're having dinner, everyone's at dinner. When we're watching a movie, everyone's in the movie.
Do you get a lot of pushback?
Not after I do it long enough.
Okay.
After they learn that I really don't care. Like, I have a son that if the chores are done, I am literally okay if he plays on the computer all day long.
Because he did what you needed him to do.
He did what I need to do. And when I ask him to take the trash out, he knows if he stops his computer game right then, empties the trash and goes back, he's good. If he doesn't, then it becomes a fight about the computer. Then it becomes a fight about you don't listen to me, you don't respect me, et cetera, et cetera. It becomes a whole thing.
Good. I like that. I like that.
So if you train people, yourself and your kids, that it's not about the phone. I mean, sometimes it is about content.
Right.
You're flirting with adults.
Yeah, not
and
okay.
you're a kid, not okay. You're sharing pictures. You're sharing our address, not okay. There are content things that aren't okay. But if we're just talking about time and distraction, then you have to also tell your kid when it's okay. You bought them the phone.
Right.
So obviously it's okay that they use it at some point. tell them when it's okay. They're like, hey, after Thanksgiving dinner, when the dads are watching football and doing the dishes and mom's, can we buy my phone? Yes, that's a great time.
So I'll tell you what we do. Do you know what we do with
No.
phones? So I had all of these great expectations because my background's technology, right? Like
Yeah.
I was raised, my dad always got the greatest of tools. And it's part of who I am now because I was able to spend so much time on these cool tech things that it really did build who I am. And so, but phones, I always said like, we're never going to do whatever line I drew in the sand. Then we got a type 1 diabetic that needed a phone because she was type 1 diabetic. She was 9 years old. And I was like, okay, all bets are off. Like we've reevaluated. And so we give them minutes on their phone, we have iPhones. They earn the right to be able to have the responsibility of a technology device, which they're all hand-me-down devices. I don't buy anything new for them. They're all hand-me-downs and they're all mine. They're mine.
Right.
But I'll let you use this and you show your credibility. So we have them ask for more time. And it's a skill that we have taught them to do. Because you can ask, they can use their 1 more minute. That's part of the technology. 1 more minute. Or they can type in a password, which means that they have snuck the password. But I also understand it notifies me when they have snuck passwords and don't always get it. So I have like 12 snucked passwords, right? Like 12 attempts or 35 attempts. And then we have request 15 minutes. And so kind of to your point of do the things and then request more time. Ask for more time. Right. We are here to give you more time, but also you need to like make your bed, do the dishes, take out the trash, like those expectations that we have had. And establish those when we all have our listening ears on.
That's an important thing you mentioned about rules. Most rules were not made to be obeyed. The rule was made to reach some other end.
Yeah.
Kind of like we talked about, happiness is a thing that happens when you're doing all the right things. When you're obeying the rules, the point isn't to obey the rule. It's to get the other thing. Like, why do I want to restrict phones? Because I want a good relationship with my kids.
Yes.
I want to enjoy having them in the house and they enjoy me.
Yes.
If the phone gets in the way of that, it's a problem. If the computer gets in the way of that, it's a problem.
Yes. And helping to understand, like if they're playing Pokemon on their phone, figure out how to play Pokemon, join in on it.
Join in.
And, like if they're we're into Wordle now. Do you do the New York Times Wordle?
I used to.
Like, so we all share and we figure out how many guesses we have. So we make a lot of, we're very nerdy around here. We do a lot of tech time together.
Well, a few months ago, Thanksgiving, we were together with all the cousins, or my brothers and sisters and the kids with their cousins.
Yeah.
And one of my kids came up and asked for my phone. And I was like, you have 13 cousins downstairs. Why do you want a phone? We're playing a game together on our phones with the TV. I was like, done.
Yeah.
Unlocked my phone, handed it to him.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
Yeah. So I do want to talk a little bit, and I know that we're at time, but I want to talk a little bit about I'm never giving my kid a phone.
Right.
What do you, I don't know. Do you have opinions on that?
That usually has nothing to do with the kid. It has to do with the parent.
So how do
It's an emotional reaction. Like I'll see a patient that has some horrific thing that happened. And that day I'll be like, we're never doing this. Because I saw how it ended for one person, one time.
Mm.
And kids need to see their parents change their minds. They need to see their parents say, I did set this rule. It was useful at the time. It's not useful now. We're changing the rule. And you explain it just like, yeah, you did have a rule when you were 10 that you couldn't drive the car. You are no longer 10. You're 16. I want you to drive a car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want you sleeping with somebody when you're 14. You're married. I would like you to. That would be a good thing.
Yes.
And you explain that rules change because situations change. Like no phones for kids, type 1 diabetic. Phone for kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Rules change with situations, with time, with life.
And kids say that's not fair.
Right. And you just say, the rule wasn't built to be fair. The rule was built to be useful.
That is perfect, Matt. Okay. That was longer than a minute, but here we are. We're enjoying our time, and we will have you on next week.
Thank you. This has been Monday's Mental Health Minute with Dr. Matt.